sur mon chemin, comme je suis bien, sans mes tracas.
You are now listening to Femme podcast with Tessa Markle and Carolina Alvarez. Femme.
Hey, fam. So we encountered some technical difficulties this morning. Just goes to show you, just like filmmaking, there's always gonna be something thrown at you, but we make it work. And we are so excited that we did, because we have some really amazing guests today who we actually got to guest on their show recently. And they're so much fun. They make such fun projects, and they're really cool people to just like follow what they're doing, because they're doing so much. So together they are Wild 7 Studios, and separate they are April Mendoza and Naz Red. And they were both starting their filmmaking career separately, came together to create this film called Debbie and the Devil, and learned so much. Like, we really get into the nitty-gritty of what they went through with this film. But again, it's like you learn so much on the job, not just of what you're doing, but what to look out for. You learn lessons on the job as well. So we get into that in this episode. I think you guys are going to enjoy it and learn a lot.
Yes, thanks, April and Naz, for coming on the show. We talk about this. We have a podcast swap with them, so look out for us on their show as well. But they're such a fun bunch to listen to learn from. We appreciate their open and honesty, and I think you guys are going to learn a lot of good tips along the way, especially if you're a horror fan. They came together, with the love of the same kind of genre, style, and I think that just always helps people work together and form a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to find that common ground. So they said, same vibe, same vision. And so they've taken off. They're doing so much, and I hope you guys, take some notes. They're really going to drop some gold today with us. So enjoy. Well, thank you guys for coming on the show, for doing our first this season and in a wild podcast swap.
Woo.
It was so nice to go. We were just there, fam. Thanks to Parker. Shout out to Parker for
Hello,
Parker. Thank you.
who introduced us. We were able to go to their studio in downtown LA last week and record a podcast together. So it's such a treat. To do in person is rare these days. So it was really nice to sit down with the two of you, get to know you a little better before coming on our show.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for being on our show.
Yeah, and thank you for having us on this. It's very fun.
Yeah, it was so good to meet you guys in person.
Yeah, it was a fun show. That was fun. Thank you.
We had a lot of fun.
A lot of tea.
Yes.
Naz loves to poke. I have to say, I was like, that Naz, if I didn't know, he's a tia with a little cafecito and wants
he's
to
Nazalina.
He's a Nazalina.
That's his tea name, when he's ready for some tea, have a little tea party.
It's my Latina alter ego.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we're going to be asking all the pipe and burning questions for Debbie and the Devil, your film. And, before we dive into that project, you've done so many different shorts. I mean, a telenovela, you've built Wild 7 Studios. And I think it's always important to kind of get to know the creator before we talk about the work. Everyone has their journey, whether you went to film school or didn't, like us. And, April Mendoza, Naz Red, introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit how you got started, and, fast forward to maybe when you two started collaborating and started Wild 7 Studios.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm April Mendoza, writer, director, producer, and co-owner of Wild 7 Studios. My partner Naz and Chris Troll, who's not currently here. But a little bit backstory of who I am, I guess. I can go way back, but so and we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier, but I've always loved filmmaking. I've always known I wanted to be a director, a filmmaker, and I loved horror a lot growing up and genre films, but specifically horror. So I've always just wanted to make this film. So I started back in high school days, and then I took a class, went to community college. I studied there. So I didn't go to any fancy film school, but I just took classes at community college and then studied as much as I could. And then when I was done with community college, 3.5 years later, which is pretty average for community college, I was starting to apply to all the film schools that everyone says you should go to. And my dream school was UCLA, the UCLA Film School, which is very competitive.
Yeah.
But it was always kind of a dream to go there. I loved the campus. And then, so long story short, I didn't get in. And so I just kind of decided to take like a year off and take some time off. And I actually decided to apply 2 years in a row, which a lot of people don't know. And so I tried it twice. But during that process of trying to get into UCLA, I was just learning filmmaking and getting in on sets and, PAing and just making my own films by, once I learned from other people, I decided to kind of make my own music videos and films. And essentially, like, I just started working with a lot of people that I met in college and just like on set and started kind of building my network during those years. And then, after those 2 years, I decided to go to Cal State Fullerton, which is, my alma mater. That's where I learned, film business and distribution, just kind of more of like the business side of things. And at the time, I was also producing Debbie and the Devil. So backtrack, around 2008, 17, I met this cinematographer through working with my partner, Chris. And, we're just working on this music video and we met this DP. And he was like, I know this buddy of mine who really wants to make a feature film. And we're like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, he's looking for a producer, and he was like, I want to make my feature too. And he wants to make his first feature. And, I think that you guys should meet. And yeah, long story short, that's how I met Nas. And we connected back in like the beginning of 2018 at that point. And we met at a coffee shop. And, after he sent me his script for Debbie and the Devil, I read through it and I was like, oh, I love this. It's like horror. And it, it had a lot of like different references that I really dug. And then ever since then, we've just been on this journey of making the Debbie and the Devil movie that you mentioned, our first baby, and B, creating Wild 7 Studios, like without even knowing it. So yeah, that's how Chris, myself, and Nas met and linked up. And then yeah, so since 2018, through the making of Debbie and the Devil, we've just started building Wild 7. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I'll let Nas sort of introduce himself. And
no, April, I didn't know you applied to UCLA 2 times.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I learned something new today. Those bastards, those rat bastards. Hi everybody. My name is Nas Red, and I am where do I begin? Like, I was born in Gresham, or I was born in Portland, Oregon, and I spent the first 3 years of my life in Gresham, which is like a little country town near Portland. And then for the rest of my life, I spent around Northern California. And then when I was in like a teenager, I moved to Southern California. And my family is a family of, my father is a tailor. And so I know how to make shirts and stuff like that. But really, my dream has always been to be a filmmaker. And, when I was younger, I liked, the things that April grew up on. Like, I loved Tim Burton. I think that was the first filmmaker that I was aware of and knew his work and stuff like that. But then it wasn't until Pulp Fiction that I was like, oh, okay, that's what I want. I was like 12 and I saw it in theaters. And so I was like, that's it. That's the career that I want, that I want to do. And in sort of following my own road and following my own obsessions with cinema and stuff, I feel like I've just kind of carved out a little niche for myself and for ourselves with Debbie and the Devil. And really, Debbie and the Devil, it came from just, I'm sure, from the place that you guys came from in wanting to make your film. Just fuck it. I have to make it. Like, I just have to do it and take that first step. And without getting too much into Debbie and the Devil, we'll get there when we get there. I just wanted to make like a fun horror film, like the kind of horror films that I enjoyed seeing with like a big crowd and stuff. And, but wanting to do it and being able to do it is like two different things. I needed a producer. And so the cinematographer that April mentioned, I linked up with him. And we made a short film for it. And then a year later, we were trying to, make the film. And that's where she came in. And then my life has been wonderful ever since. And that's it. That's the whole
That's
thing.
it. You get the show right there.
Yeah, we're done. Goodbye. See you. Yeah.
I love that though, like coming together on, like you've called it, your first baby, like when you find someone that it really aligns with like what you want to make and how you work together, like that's magic, and that makes the baby work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to find people that you really kind of like creatively mesh with and, that really see you and get you and want the same things at the same time, in your life. So I think we were definitely on the same wavelength. Like I didn't even know I wanted to make, a feature film with that, like producing. I never thought I would produce a feature film. Like I always assumed I would just make one or direct one, but yeah. And then, he believed in me and then I believed in me. And I was actually studying producing at college while I was making Debbie and the Devil. So I was like, yeah, I got this. I think we can do this. And,
Yeah.
but yeah. And it's been such a great, collaboration and connection because we work so well together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I will say, like, from our first meeting, it was very vibey on like horror films and future goals and stuff like that. So I've been very fortunate, and I think she feels the same fortune. And Chris and all of us here, we're just fortunate. We're like leprechauns,
yeah.
And I didn't know either that you were in school while you started this process.
Yeah.
I imagine that's a lot on your plate.
Oh my God. It was probably the busiest time of my life. Like I just remember being so tired all the time. I was just constantly like working on different things like shorts, music videos, commercials, ads, and then, of course, school, and then this, and then interning. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, you were taking other jobs, right? Like,
yeah. And I was like also waitressing, and it was a lot. It was I don't even know how I did it looking back, to be honest with you.
Do you feel like though it did like give you extra resources or people to kind of lean on, or do you feel like it was kind of a separate thing?
I feel like it was really, it was kind of like very lucky that I was taking that specific course as a, producing. But outside of that, I had already had like my crew, like back from, my community college days, I had this really great group of people that I met. And so they were kind of my core group already. And then as far as like, I didn't really study production at Cal State. So it was mostly just like that class, that producing class was just like teaching me exactly what I needed to know at the right times, So that was crucial, I think.
Yeah. I think for our listeners who like producing isn't it's not always like the sexiest thing that's talked about. I always say 100%. That on the show, but I think it's like the strongest aspect of making a film and making it a success. And so, first of all, congrats to both of you for like trusting each other and having the willingness to learn is so, I think, vital. So it's like amazing that you were putting yourself through school so you can learn more, so you can, be the best that you can be. And that's like Tessa said, it's hard to do when you're also doing the damn thing.
Thank you, Carolina.
Yeah.
Thank you. But is there anything, for our listeners that you would say you picked up on or learned the most as a producer for this film specifically that you were like, oh, yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot, but if there's anything that got you at least started in the process, whether it was in pre-production and like how you worked with Naz in that respect.
Oh God. So the question being, what did I learn the most, or what was like the most important thing I learned
as
while
a producer?
Producing?
Yeah.
Because that's hard. But I mean, definitely it's going to be like, you're going to learn more while you're doing it versus what you learned in school. So let me think about that. What was the...
You learned how to deal with Nos Red.
I feel like it was a little bit of everything.
Well, did you have any producing partners? It's always a good thing to know like how involved, because and I would have loved to have more, but we had to just have each other.
That's true.
So
thanks for bringing that up, actually. I will say that there's so many things that I learned about while making this movie as a producer, and I think you kind of even mentioned this while you're on our podcast last week. And it's just really knowing when to cut things off. So it's funny. So I have this mentality on set, offset, with friends, and I know that you guys kind of feel the same way. But when someone feels a little toxic, like, and it's going to spread, it's like poison, you cut them off before it's too late, right? So early on, and I won't name names, and this is fine that we're talking about it because I don't care, because people need to know this. We had a
here comes the tea.
The tea is happening. Hold on, let me take a little sip of my.
I know, I was like,
get ready, gals.
No, so essentially, I won't get too into it, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of early on, I figured I would trust other people that had done it more than trusting myself. And so we brought a producer on, like a co-producer that had more experience and had produced like a lot of films at that point. So I would lean a little bit on him and just sort of not too much, but like I guess trusted him a little bit with certain things. But then it got to the point where, you know, he was like, and mind you, this is a very low budget indie film. So we didn't have a very big budget at all. Like it was almost nothing, but we always prioritized food, like I know you guys did. And there was one day in particular that I remember that, you know, he was like trying to save us money by skimping out on the food. And I think we kind of trusted him a little bit that day where it's like, okay, you got the lunch, you got it handled. You think it's enough for everybody? Okay, cool. And it wasn't enough. Like people ate, but like I could tell it wasn't enough. And I think at that point, plus other things that were said that just were not professional and just the way that he kind of conducted himself, I was like, you know, I think it's time to cut ties here. And so I had to have that conversation, but like for the sake of everybody involved, and I just had to, you know, let him go. But it ended up being fine because I didn't really have, okay, so we had Chris Troll, which is our other partner. He was my co-producer, but he was also ADing on set. So
he wore many hats.
Yeah. So through the process, like I only really needed him, myself, and Nas, and then we didn't really have other producers involved at that point. So
April said to the guy, she was like, "This is an April Mendoza production, you jerk. Get out of here." You know, and that's how it went down.
No, that
I was like, "Hey,"
happens.
I just put my hands up. I was like, "That's how it goes. Sorry, dude. Later, dude."
Later, dude.
Yeah.
No, it's a very hard position to be in, especially when you're in production and you're not the first person to say something, spill that tea on the show. And it always breaks my heart, like knowing, because that's tough. That's a really tough position. But I think every time someone brings up a story like that, it's like, well, it was the right decision though. Like
it was,
had it stayed, you know, maybe you wouldn't even finish the film. Like you don't know until it gets to a certain point of bad where you're like, should have cut my losses sooner. And that's normally what I think we all experience. Is like, I should have even done this sooner if it reaches a certain point, like when you start to feel. But you know, when you're working together for the first time and you want to trust someone, that's what you want to first lead with. That, at least I do. I'm always like, okay, I'm going to trust you until like I start be a certain way, and then you got to listen to yourself.
For sure. No, and it was just like one of those things too where he would sort of like promise things that just were so over exaggerated, and it was just like, once you don't trust someone and you feel like they're just not on your side, or you know what I mean, like it's just it's not worth keeping around. But I think I really learned that you should trust yourself the most, and especially like as a first-time filmmaker, whether it be directing, producing, whatever. You really do need to trust yourself and know that you got this. Like, even if it's your first time, you're prepared and you know this better than anyone, and you're more capable than anyone if you have the passion and the drive and the willingness to learn from other people. But, you know, at the end of the day, it really comes down to just like, trusting your intuition and knowing what's ethically right and wrong. Like, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big lesson, because it's easy to fall into that like imposter syndrome, right? Like you feel inexperienced. It's your first feature. You're trusting someone that has more experience than you, but that doesn't mean that they're always going to be right. And it doesn't mean that you need to, you know, trust everything they say. Like this is your project. You make that decision. So I think it sounds like you made the right decision for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Good confirmation. I mean, looking back, 100%. Yeah, he's an idiot. But that's our tea. And there's more tea from this movie, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
We've got gallons.
We've got gallons.
Yeah.
Well, this is what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And Naz, for being a director, writer, and actor, can relate to you, honey. How was it? How was it?
I have to say, you know, because we recently, before you did our podcast, we saw Sync. And I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, you know, you guys did a lot on that, you know, in terms of being in front of the camera and behind the camera. I gotta say, being in front of the camera and behind the camera is a bit tough because you're having multiple discussions about multiple levels of the craft. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're
all the time.
You're talking to your DP about the look, and then you're talking to the actors about the performance. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again, but I would have to be really in love with the material and stuff to do it. And I did it just because I could. But I mean, if there was one thing I learned, and I kind of always knew this sort of like instinctually and from what I saw of filmmaking growing up, just studying it, it's that a lot of like directing, it's more like being a summer camp counselor. Like, especially with our experience with Debbie, April will tell you, like, there was one portion of it that we shot, like a lot of the crew was like staying at my house.
Yeah, Gore Garage.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like movie summer camp, and you're managing a lot of different personalities, and you have to be political. You have to be diplomatic in how you deal with people. You can't be a raging asshole, even if you want to be. And I don't want to be usually, but sometimes I do want to be when, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm human, you know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
so it's just personality management. But the thing that I have to say is to anybody out there that hasn't made the film, their first film, and they're nervous about it, dude, it's fun as hell. The work,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's fun.
Hell
And that's all
yeah.
I have to say. Like
Yeah.
it is a lot of personality management, but it does kind of feel like a party where there's a goal in mind. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And again, I've been very fortunate with the people that I've met as my comrades, my compas, as we call them here. Yeah.
But no, I can't imagine like starring in, I mean, just being in a film alone and having to act and direct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that once with one scene, one small scene. And it's a lot to manage. So I can't, you guys, I don't know how you did it. So props.
Yeah.
Major props.
Well, we are
Thank
superheroes,
you.
as you are. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
props to, thank you. We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's definitely a lot, and I think you just learn more about yourself, and I agree. I think it's, for me, doing this moving forward too, wearing like literally all the hats, it has to feel like 100% the right fit in the story and budget.
Yeah.
Like,
And I have to say,
you know.
congratulations to you
Yeah.
guys on sync and stuff. I'm looking
Thank
forward to,
you.
you know, what the future
Yeah,
holds
same
for all
here.
of you, you know.
Oh yeah, guys,
you.
fam, we sent them a unfinished screener, but
Woo!
we're very close. We're very close. They're pretty much seeing as close to the film as we are before color and finalizing our graphics. So it was special to share, start sharing sync with other fellow filmmakers and getting such really kind feedback. So
Yeah, it's great.
scary to give it away.
We're so
especially not
honored.
done,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
like,
It's
oh,
cool. It's like
Yeah.
being at this stage of the game where you're seeing, you know, talents that are emerging, blossoming and stuff. It's cool
Yeah.
to see other people's stuff. It's been a very
Yeah, no, it's
nice
amazing.
experience.
Yeah, I can't wait for your audience to see it because it's really cool and very Black Mirror-esque and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
female forward, of course. So love
Yeah,
it.
it was
Love it.
cool.
And I would recommend too, to any filmmakers that are, you know, new to the game listening, like, take that opportunity to show not everybody, you know, before it's out, but like people that you trust, and both that are filmmakers themselves and that aren't, because you're going to get that feedback. I know Carolina and I have let a few people close to us like watch it with us as we've been reviewing the different cuts, but
Right.
I think that's a really like magical thing that we have that ability to, or that, you know, resource, you know,
Yeah.
because you can get that feedback. You can see if people understand the story, what they think about the quality. It just feels good to hear that people like it, you know,
Yeah.
and having that just like second opinion is really helpful from people that are totally disconnected from it.
Yeah, 100%. And then once you're editing it and like you've been involved from the very beginning, you know, you don't really know what or how it's going to be perceived really because you're just so in it. And like sometimes like you even remember like old versions of the script and it's like, oh yeah, well, I know what this means or I know what's happening, but like, does the audience know? So it's like, it's definitely essential to have people that like have never seen the film see it at some point, you know? So,
and also
trusted filmmakers for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, also, I think as filmmakers, you will do like an assembly cut and you'll have a moment like in Nightmare Before Christmas. Remember where Jack is like on the grave and he's like, what have I done? What have I like? You'll have that experience. But the thing is, you polish it, you show it to people, you refine it, and it becomes something magical as our films have.
Yeah.
So
yes, that's a really beautiful way of describing it. Like everyone says it, your assembly cut and you're like, oh no. Oh no. This was like cool and I saw glimpses of it. And then now what is this? And then like you start, and it's very overwhelming at first too, because I would pinpoint a million different thoughts and notes in my head, but I had to just work through, I think, like the biggest things that stood out to me first. And then now we're at this cut, like I'll only change it if I'm still like inside something doesn't feel right. But it took even a while to listen to that voice where I was like, the scene is still like not it. And I don't know why. But then once I finally vocalized it to my editor, he's like, okay, let's look at it. Let's do it. And I'm like,
Right,
okay.
right.
And then I would start to really then just get into it. And I found that every time we did that, I was like, yeah, now I'm like really happy. Why did I like go? And but that takes time because you're so overwhelmed by literally everything. You're like, okay, see someone's foot here, and then like let's also, but like look at that too, and this is slow, and I don't, and so then you're just like constantly going, all right.
Oh my God.
So yeah, from the assembly cut, you're really looking at pacing, and that's your focus. Like for me, that's what it was. So it's like pacing, and then we like
and flow, right? And how it
flow,
like,
exactly. And the story, do we understand the freaking story? And that's when you start showing your friends after like the second pass, and you're like, do you guys get this?
I love it. It's like you're like debuting it, you know.
So,
we call ours when we debuted Debbie, we called it a debutante.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's graduating, we're showing her to the world.
Yeah.
Very overwhelming feeling. But yeah, I'm really excited that you guys are almost there.
We're almost there.
Crazy process.
No, thank you.
If you don't mind me asking, I forgot to, or maybe we did ask, I don't remember, but how long were you guys like working on it from like the writing to the editing? And like how long has it been?
You had started writing it, Carolina, just like early stages in 2020.
Yeah.
And we were still like really figuring out what the story was overall. Like you had the ideas and inspirations, but like connecting it all. And then just went from there. I think we like officially started pre-production early 2022.
2022? Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's I feel like we're working on our movie for like almost 4 years.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, during the pandemic too, but yeah.
Labor of
it's
love.
Like 2 years is not bad. That's not bad.
That's a good turnaround.
So, good for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Movies take a long time to make.
They do. They definitely do. But Naz, our writer, why don't you tell our audience what Debbie and the Devil is all about? And so that way we can get some more tea on like the story. We watched it. We totally enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. And I feel like of the other stuff I've seen on your website, you guys definitely kudos for finding definitely your voice and style. I feel like I get that. And it was really fun to watch because the story, the film itself is kind of broken up into like 3 parts. But very like literally 3 different kind of stories almost. All woven together. So why I will say no more. I'll let you take it away.
You know, it's weird. Like it's a hard movie to describe for me because it's like, it's like my homage to horror films and stuff. But when you look at it like emotionally, you see that there is this kind of weird arc where at the beginning it starts with the cartoon character flipping off the audience. I think that was me as a young man really working through anger, or so. I think most artists, they have a base level of anger to them, and some of us have rage. You know, and I think through making the film, I had changed so that by the end of it, I was like, you know, revealing more emotional stuff and stuff like that. And honestly, I mean, the movie, it's a horror film, but sometimes when I watch it or I think about it, I think, God, I'm being so simpy here. And so, you know, so
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you know, but I think that's what makes it interesting. Like in a nutshell, I think the story is about the devil, and I think really it's I don't know. It's hard for me to say because again, it's like, it's now kind of a distant memory too. I think I was working through a lot of stuff really, and I was using horror films as a way to work through that stuff. But just,
I could add on to it because it was a very hard film to market because it's so it's so different. You know, there's the 3 interconnected films that are all told through different horror subgenres. Like the first film is like a teen slasher film, like kind of 80s inspired, kind of campy. And then you have the second film that's a giallo film, kind of like Suspiria and like Argento films, and just kind of moody and stylistic and more of a slow burn. And then you have the third film that was a modern found footage film that was like all shot on the phone. Like it was actually shot on the iPhone. We're also running out of budget
cool.
at that point. But hey, you know,
No,
and
it was
it's
making me
interconnected.
laugh. Like
Oh,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was
good.
fun. It felt
Yeah,
like
no, I
we
appreciate
were,
that.
breaking the third wall.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah.
And it's got the comedy elements to it, so it's not just straight horror. But yeah, and it's interconnected by this like animated wraparound. And then basically it starts with these like two kids who are running away from a mass shooter, like a school shooter, and they find their way to this like magical movie theater. And that's where they meet this character, Mr. Red, or you know, it's the devil. It's him, but cartoon form, and it's also
the
just
devil himself.
it's a character, yeah. And he shows them this trilogy called the Debbie and the Devil trilogy. So it's like there's a movie called Debbie and the Devil in the film, and they're watching these films in this theater, and that's essentially the film.
April, you did great. Thank you.
April, crushed it.
I've worked a lot on the marketing of this thing.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I think the thing that separates it from your typical low budget, like crummy movie, and I'm not saying anything bad about those kind of movies. There's something to it. I don't know. People have described it as being just, I don't know. I sound like a douchebag saying like, oh, it's a little bit more than those low budget horror films, but there's some substance there, I should say.
It has heart.
It has heart, definitely.
Yeah.
It does. And I could see now hearing more about where your mindset, Naz, was when creating it. I can see what you were like, all the little references and all of that throughout the film, what you were trying to work through or have the kids learn from.
Right.
Like what is right and wrong and what is revenge and what is like, you know, taking chances in life. Like there's what is love? Like, there's just there's so much there. And this is why I think Tessa and I always love horror, is like there can be just, you know, we want to go see people die on screen, but my favorite kind of horror films are the ones with heart and like there's just something we're trying to like unveil that is so horrifying because we made it horrifying, but it is a topic that maybe should be looked at closer because of how dark and how kept in the dark it's been.
Yeah.
And it was also very satirical. So there's like moments that
satire. Yes, I was going to bring up satire, which I do feel is like
it's just in case anyone like that has watched it is confused about it.
Yeah,
because it's like it has like that South Park humor, I think, and it's like
which is a big influence. I would put the South Park movie on like a top 10 list of like top influential films on me, at least. You know, like
I mean, when we were sort of pitching this, like at first, you know, we were describing it as like, I guess the movies that we were comparing it to it was like the humor of South Park, and it was like blood and gore of like Ash versus Evil, or just, you know, Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah.
And what else? Beavis and Butthead was on there.
Creep Show.
Like the formatting of Creep Show.
Yeah.
And I forgot what other movie, but it was kind of all those combined. So
right.
I think that gives you kind of more insight into like what the film was.
Yeah. And speaking of satire, I remember the school shooting aspect of it in like the original script was a lot more crazy. Like there was like a woman is like, she's part of a school shooting or something. Anyway, it was insane. Like there was this part, like Mr. Red, she takes a piece of brain off of her face and says, I see this guy had a lot on his mind, zing, zing. And when we were holding auditions for it, I think a school shooting had just happened, like, because it happens every single day. I refuse to act like it's normal. I mean, it's insane that it happens every single day. And the whole school shooting aspect of the film came from just like, dude,
it was getting ridiculous. Like it still is, obviously, but
it's almost funny because it's like, dude, I'm exhausted from this. It just happens every day.
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but actresses were coming in to read for this one part.
Yeah.
And it was back when Sally, the little cartoon girl, was live action. We were going to do it live action. And this actress looks at the lines and she just looks at us. And I think it was like the brain line or something. And she just looks at us. She's like, this is crazy. This is, you know, it's life. It's, you know, we're making fun of life here, you know. Satire.
Yeah. But it's like it kind of goes back to what we were saying about like connecting to horror as like a, you know, when you're going through things, like there's so many like communities and magazines and message boards and everything about people that connect over horror because of trauma in their lives, you know, and it helps a lot of us get through it, whether it is like the fun campy horror or like really gory, like psychological mindfuck horror, like no matter what it is, you know. So
100%. And then like collectively as like you know, society, it's cool to see like the kind of films that are being made, because a lot of times it's like a lot of similar films are being made at the same time, and I love analyzing like why, like what's going on in the culture and the zeitgeist and just in time, you know. And that's why horror is so cool to it pinpoints like what our collective traumas are, you know.
And then also I have to say, I mean, and I'm here with you wonderful people and stuff, and you guys are women, and I've noticed that lately there's been a lot of horror voices that are women. And I often think like a lot of women gravitate towards horror because the whole world is trying to kill you guys. And so, right? Okay, cool. My hunch was correct.
I think women know fear on a deeper level.
Like us being alone in a parking lot is different than like a man being alone in a parking lot.
Right.
Like, always like key in the hand.
Like our genre is horror.
Right? Our genre is horror.
Like constantly just,
Oh my God. I mean, period. Literally, there's a lot of blood and guts from us. So
I'm here for it, ladies. Definitely. I'm an ally.
A lot of blood.
Thank you.
Representing. But no, I think it was really cool to see the animation with it. It was making me laugh a lot in the third piece. And talk to us about like you had the logistics. I'm sure we can kind of get into some more tea here, because I could tell the various different locations. There was a lot. So how long did it take you to shoot all of this? How many locations? And I'll start with that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want me?
Go for it.
I'll start. Okay.
Yeah.
So live action wise, we had quite a few locations. But the thing about the way that we filmed was, I guess, a little unconventional. We sort of filmed it in chunks, and we could because we had 3 different films with different actors.
Yeah, that's nice.
I think we had one actor. Yeah, I think we had one actor that was like in multiple, but which was our lead, Melina. But
hi, Melina.
So we first started filming the Tears of a Bloody Rose, the giallo film, right? Yeah. And that one was, I think, 3 days, and we shot it here at Wild 7 Studios.
I recognized it. I saw the fire escape, and I was we got a tour.
Yeah. But honestly, we filmed a lot of it here. We just sort of disguised it. And so, our studio looked very different back then, but essentially it's like a big factory, and in downtown. We filmed, I believe, all of Tears here, right? It was like on the fire escape. It was sort of in the general like studio area inside of our now podcast room. We converted that into a bedroom. And so it kind of looked like multiple locations. But that was Tears of a Bloody Rose, and that was 3 to 4 days. Was it 4 days, I think?
Oh my God.
And essentially we had, crowdsourced some money to make that film, and then we ran out of money. So we had to take time. Yeah, exactly. We had to take some months to recoup all of that, and we crowdsourced again. And then, a few months went by. I want to say it was like half a year, and then we shot Gore Garage, and that was like our 80s teen slasher film. That film took also about 4.5 to 5 days to make, and that was mostly filmed at Naz's house. We just used what we had, of course, as you do, but we used like every inch of that place. We used, like the garage, which was supposed to be a basement, and that's a whole story. Our production designers had a great time trying to convert that into a basement, but it was just kind of, it wasn't working. So we just changed, because originally the title was Blood Basement. Changed it to Gore Garage. Easy fix, right? Anyway, so we use the garage, we use like the bathroom and the kitchen and the backyard. So every inch of Naz's house we used in that film. I think, was there any other locations on Gore Garage?
The bathtub.
Which is all bathroom. So essentially that was probably the most challenging to make because of all the blood and the, stunts and all that stuff. And then you had the final piece of the film, which took about probably 4 days. There were shorter days, and that we filmed on the phone. So it was a little bit of our easier portion of the film. And that one, it was easier because we were able to kind of go anywhere with the phone. It was just, logistically it was a lot easier. We filmed some of it here. We filmed on the metro. We filmed
Outside in downtown.
yeah, just like walking the
Yeah.
streets of downtown, like in the bazaar area and just like on the
Yeah.
streets, just all over the place on the, parking garages, like the rooftop.
Mhm.
We never had issues with, well, we had one issue, and that was like when we tried to film at this one cemetery.
I was
Right.
gonna
You
say
know?
there's a cemetery too.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
and the reason that if you watch the movie, they the girl is standing like against the fence.
Mhm.
So she's
Mhm.
not actually in the cemetery, right? That wasn't the plan, okay?
Oh,
The
okay.
plan was to be in the cemetery, but we're guerrilla style. We didn't have permits. We didn't have money for that.
That
So
makes
we
sense.
definitely got kicked out of 2 cemeteries.
We got kicked out of the Hollywood Forever
Yeah,
Cemetery.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Favorite one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in 2 of them though. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that was the only problem that we had with shooting on the phone, because they're just very strict, because as they should be, it's a cemetery.
Right.
Don't come for us. Like,
No.
we're just trying to make art.
And right,
I mean, hey,
kids,
they
there's a
show movies
lesson.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
There's a lesson in this, in the sense that, like, as young filmmakers, you might think that you could just go to a cemetery and film. That is so not the case. They have like security, and they don't like
Definitely not.
people filming there.
Another reason we got kicked out is because they had I think Paramount was filming there. So of course they're going to kick us out. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
they're just certain places were very, very strict.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, that was pretty easy to shoot. So I would say the most challenging logistically would probably be Gore Garage. And that was just because it was our first time dealing with like stunts and gore and blood effects. And so,
It's a lot. The
Yeah.
guys, there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of
Yeah.
gore. Be
It
ready,
is.
but it's campy and fun
Yeah.
too. And that's what
Yeah.
I was like talking to you about, like the Love Witch. Like there's some
Oh,
satire.
yeah. Which I know I wanted to talk to you about the Love Witch. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because
Yeah.
I had just seen the Love Witch. It was while we were in pre-production for Debbie. I love the Love Witch. It's such a vibe.
Yeah.
And do you remember there's a burlesque dancer and she plays herself? Her
Yeah.
name's April Showers. So essentially I had just watched that movie, and we're working on casting, and we're casting on LA Casting. So I'm going through submissions for Kevin's mom, which is one of the kids.
Mhm.
And I see her face. I'm like, oh, April Showers. Like,
April
I know her.
Yeah.
Like, I just saw her in a movie, and it was just like so crazy. So so she was in our movie, and we cast her, and so we have a little tie to that movie.
Oh,
That's
that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love
So,
that.
Yeah, but I
Hollywood.
see that. I really love the vibe of Love Witch. It
I do
has that kind
too.
of 70s vibe, and it's like satirical, but like
Feminist,
beautiful,
like, out
feminist.
there.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Well, it's like satirical to like the opposite of feminism in a way, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
But no, I just like, you could tell with the gore and all that. Also the lead actress who is playing like the Debbie.
Ramsey.
Yeah, really great work.
Isn't she awesome?
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she goes hard. Like, she's one of the most committed like actors that we've worked with. Just when she's in it, she's really in it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And she goes like all out.
Yeah.
But and
Debbie
she
went
also
dark.
worked.
Debbie
It
went
did.
dark.
She does. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was just down. Like, but she was really good at like just all the stunts, and she worked on action films. And I actually had cast her in this like surrealist drama thriller that I had just recently made. So we had worked together before. So that was
Oh,
nice, because we already
nice.
established that relationship. And
Yeah.
but yeah, she was great.
That's
So
why
it
you
was a
always
blast
see-
to make. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you always see people working together multiple times, time and
Definitely.
again, is because you find those people and you're like, they're the best. Like,
Yeah,
I can't not
exactly.
work with them.
Right? Like, it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course you want to work with different people. But yeah, so that one was just a lot of fun, and it was just chaotic because it was just so much going on. And but luckily we had pros working with us. Like, we had a really great special effects blood guy, and we had a stunts guy. We had a great DP that's just super experienced, and just knows how to, I don't know, like, work on our schedule and just
Move on the
improvise.
fly and improvise. That's huge.
Exactly. Which is important, because you have a
So
plan
important.
for everything, and then we're
Yeah.
running out of time, and then
Yeah.
things go wrong. And I remember at one point, not to put Chris on the spot, because we love Chris. He had a thing, like, he was like in school at the time, and he had to leave, and he's our AD. He had to leave like during our shoot because he had to do something. And so we were kind of like, okay, without the AD, like, we're kind of running behind on time, and we were not going to make the day. And actually we didn't. So at one point we didn't, like, we were going to go over like the 12 hours, but this was on our big blood day, like the garage day, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's like we're working
Yeah.
with prosthetics, we're working with like just blood everywhere. Like I don't want to give away spoilers. It doesn't really matter, but like obviously, you know,
There's a lot of
people
blood.
die, right?
People are dying
Yeah.
in this
So
80s
it's kind of
slasher. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so it's hard to recreate it if you come back the next day. But essentially, Nas, if you want to tell us what you did that day.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I gave a pep talk, just sort of speech of like, just basically said, look, we're all tired and we all want to go home. And the only way to do this is if we all return the next day and finished it out. And the thing is, like, I've heard like Hong Kong films and stuff like that with a lot of special effects and action and stuff. They just keep filming until they're done. They don't really stick to, you know what I mean? Or at least I've
Right.
heard that it's like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that, even though I know you want to stick to a schedule. But it's like when you're dealing with like there's so many like what 4 kids die in that or
Mhm.
4 boys,
Yeah.
teenagers. And it's like a lot of logistics, a lot of like you don't want to put the camera in the wrong place. You want the blood to all blah 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 blah. And if there's one thing I'm super proud of, it's that this one shot where you see them all dead and it's decorated nicely. It's you know, I'm very proud of it. It you know, and I have to say for me the hardest thing was Tears of a Bloody Rose, the first one
Mm.
that we shot, the Giallo one, because that was just like jumping into cold water
Yeah.
and just, you know,
The first part of it. Yeah.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
being so exhausted after that. I don't know what it was about that night shoots or something, but it was
Night
Yeah.
genuinely an exhausting
Yeah.
experience.
We'll do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys
and
have a lot of those?
we had a decent amount because we
Yeah.
had a slow progression from day
Right.
into night. So yeah, we had a good half of it probably
Jeez.
were overnights because we would have a balance from day to night. But I think I just want to highlight exactly like we learned too how limited you are when working with blood and scars and
Mhm.
gore. Like you really like it's 1 or 2 takes, but you want to have it all set up right. And then once the blood's out there on the floor, like you
That's
can't
it.
like
One and
that's
done.
it. You can't clean
Yeah.
it up. You got to work
Yeah.
with it, and hopefully you got your shot. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, good for you for making those calls because again, it's like it's not forgiving as like resetting other scenes.
Mhm.
So anyone
Right.
who's
Definitely.
working with gore, like know that you're probably as great as we were great at sticking on time, but like again, this was also our goriest scenes were like the second to last night shoot that we had of like
Yeah.
the entire thing. And so we've already gone through days of doing all this other crazy stuff. And so, you know, just know like you might be pinched on time. So like make it as easy as you can for yourself if you don't have a big
Mhm.
budget. And probably, and you guys pitching your ideas too here, but I think it was like, yeah, have a makeup artist, like shout out to our girl, Kelly Ramos, because she just really, I told her, I was like, you're gonna have so much time. And literally we're like, okay, get it on, get it on, make me look crazy. Thank
That's
you
so
Yeah.
so much.
We have the
And she
same
just, like,
experience.
rolled. And it's like, you think you have all this time. And I'm like, and whatever, but you are like always pinched. So if someone's gonna
Mhm.
also like be like, no, I need an hour. And this is stuff to find out. Like figure
Yeah.
out how long does this makeup artist really need to do it so you can
Yeah.
factor those
Yeah.
guys in, ask them how long it'll take to reset if you do have to do a different kind of
Yeah.
prosthetic after, like all that, the skin too, like it's got to
Mhm.
take time to dry and like all of
Mhm.
this. So I mean, we can go have a whole discussion on that, but
Oh,
since
yeah.
you brought it up and there was a lot of blood, is there
Yeah.
anything you want to add? Because that was definitely, I learned so much about blood
Oh my
and
God, yeah. We did
special
too.
effects. Like,
Yeah.
it was insane.
I think just a little interesting factoid. It's not really like useful, but it is interesting to know. Apparently, and our blood guy told us this. Apparently, like real blood is super bright. It
Mm.
doesn't look like movie blood. And the reason movie blood is so dark is because people are trying to avoid getting an NC-17, because if you make it super, super bright, like realistic blood, I've seen it a few times, you
Uh-huh.
know, I didn't like it. But like, for instance, I saw
Mhm.
in Iran, I was 9 years old and a lamb was like slaughtered.
Mhm.
And the blood is just bright. It's not like that dark movie blood. I think
Interesting.
dark movie blood makes it maybe a little more palatable for people. But real
Interesting.
blood is actually super bright. Yeah,
Yeah.
good to know.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting because
Yeah.
I feel like every time I see like brighter blood, I think it looks faker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1000%.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But
Well,
another thing too, like we had a very similar experience on Tears of a Bloody Rose. You know, we told our blood guy, Robert Bravo's great, you know, great guy. And he even told us from the start, he's like, all right, I'm probably gonna need like this amount of time. He probably said like at least 45 minutes or something to set up this like it's like a blood spray.
Mhm.
Because he needs to use like a fire extinguisher, like pump and set
Oh,
it up and
yeah.
just to do it well, right? He needs
Yeah.
he needs some time. And then he's like, but just so you know, if it comes down to the wire, it's just not going to be as good or like, you know, but he was very cool about it. And he was like, well, I do have a plan B. So
Okay.
like, if for any reason we don't have enough
Yep.
time, this is what we're going to do. And so basically when it came down to it, you know, he even told me, like, he told me so many times, he's like, just so you know. And so we were
Always.
rushing this scene and our actress had to get to the airport. She had a hard out. So we're like, we got to do it. We got to do it. Like, how long can you do it? And, you know, and
Yeah.
he's like, all right, well, I could do it like real quick, but it's going to look like this. And this is how we're going to do it. But he had a plan and he was prepared. And
Yeah.
we really appreciated the teamwork there.
Yeah.
That
And just
is
a little
key.
thing
Yeah.
about that effect. It's a cool thing. Like it's a cool effect. Like the blood sprays out of the woman's neck and stuff. And the thing is, that was done with a fire
Fire hose
extinguisher.
or
Yeah,
whatever,
fire
yeah.
hose or whatever. And I remember it wasn't until like maybe a year or so into editing that we realized, oh snap, you can actually see the hose if you look closely.
Oh, yeah.
And so movie magic, we were able to delete that. And it's like in the 90s, that would have cost you a gajillion dollars to do. And today, indie
Yeah.
filmmakers like us can do awesome stuff like that. Pretty
Rotoscope
cool.
it right out. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
But yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out too,
Yeah.
filmmakers talking about how long blood can take and how like, you know, you only get 1 or 2 shots is just to add to that. Also the cleanup is a
Yes.
lot
Oh my
because when you're
gosh.
pressed for time, like I remember our PA Sarah was like scrubbing like in between the floorboards because
Yeah.
it had like seeped in.
my-
I'm
it's
like,
so
well,
messy.
if I ever need to hide a body, Sarah, I'm calling you because
For real.
is that we
It-
really know what to do.
It feels like it. Doesn't it feel like you're like cleaning up like a
a
murder?
crime scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and also I have
Yeah.
to say in regards to fake blood, like the most basic like low budget filmmaker fake blood is like Caro syrup and food coloring and stuff. I always feel terrible when I see actors in a movie covered in that stuff because it's
Yes.
freaking sticky. I imagine it's gross.
Yeah.
Like Evil Dead, I love those movies, but I feel so bad for Bruce Campbell when he's just covered in this thick
Oh my
blood
God,
and
yeah.
goo.
Definitely. But you know, especially as a producer, like you always got to plan, like Tessa, I'm sure you know, like you got to plan the escape route, like the like how are we going to wrap this up? Like how are we going to get the actors out? Is there going to be like towels on the floor? How are they going to go to the bathroom and shower off? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and just always have to have a plan to make sure that the actors like, you know, are able to get it off as soon as possible. And then also how are you going to clean up the blood? And yeah, it's like logistically annoying to deal with, but it's always so worth it because it always looks so cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a classic horror film without some good blood.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
blood.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we love it. We love blood.
So let's talk post now too.
Yeah.
How long were you guys in the post process? Because not only did you have just normal editing, but you had like the animation, and I don't know if you would also call it animation that was like over the like the phone portion, stuff like that.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
putting
That's
it all
fair.
together.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. You want to?
Well, that's an interesting question because, okay, as we mentioned, COVID happened. The world went upside down while we were making the movie and stuff. It was just insane. And I understand tea is great and tea is wonderful. And I'm here to give you the tea, but I'm gonna try and like not get on like a like fuck this guy kind of kick.
Yeah,
or
we won't do that.
I won't do that. But basically, the thing that would be of interest is in regards to the animation. Okay, originally it wasn't good. There was no animated element in it. When I would think
What?
of no,
No.
there
Okay.
wasn't.
That wasn't planned.
It
For-
wasn't.
Oh
It just
my
kind of
God.
happened
Yeah.
because of budget and because
Mhm.
of a number of other reasons, like just we had all this time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I realized, oh shit, I can do this. And then on top of that, you know, like Chris, our partner, had shown me various programs that I could use to take my chintzy little drawings and bring them back to life and stuff, or bring them to life, I should say. But what brought me there was we did hire a guy to do animation. When I decided to make animation a part of the film and have the wraparound device be animated, we hired this dude. Okay. He was insane. He was a crazy person.
But he wasn't when we met him. That's the thing.
Okay. Yeah.
They
and
never are when you first meet them.
I'll be real here. Yeah.
I just want to like jump in.
Go.
Because we even went to Vegas to meet him in person, because it's like, you know, you're going to be working with somebody for a long period of time. You want to make sure that like you guys vibe. It's,
right.
You know, that they're not crazy. Right. But anyway, so he was fine, and he had great portfolio and everything, but
he was fine. Okay. We did a little vibe check at the New Orleans Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas off the strip, because I stay there because I'm a baller. And we went to the bar, we talked to him. I really wanted to believe in him, because the thing is, it goes to a point we were making earlier. In this business, you have to work the hardest for yourself. If you think you can do something, somebody that, you know what I mean? It's like with April, with the idiot producer, he's an idiot. April's smarter. She can do it better, you know? And so we sat in the bar, and then towards the end of the conversation, he did sort of trail off into what he was saying. And I remember telling April, what was he talking about there? Like there was that little
missed that.
I will say this, okay? No, I'm going to say, no, I'll say it. Okay. One of the other things is, he kept stringing us along. He's like, okay, I could do it in 3 weeks. Bullshit, you know? And then we're like, okay, 3 weeks passed. And we're like, okay, where is it? He's like, oh, no, I don't have it. He would give a bunch of chatter and
all
word
of that.
salads.
That is my pet peeve.
Yeah.
It's like not even pet peeve, like worst fear. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Peeve
like,
and fear. Well, I'm angry when it's actually happening.
Yeah.
But I spent probably a good 4 months in our pre-production interviewing so many people, and I was so like, shout out to Adam Moffat, our editor, but I didn't know him. Like, so just because you vibe the first time. I think I made him speak with me like 2 or 3 times and like chat, because I was
smart though.
Right.
I mean, I would have done things differently now. Like the person I am now, completely different producer than, you know, I was back then.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, we learned so much.
Yeah. Eventually we fired his fucking ass, because he took us like a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah. So basically what happened was, we didn't know animation at all. Like we had no knowledge of it. It was foreign to us. We kind of assumed it would be easier and cheaper than filming in a theater, you know, doing live action and doing that whole thing again. And so, yeah, we planned to animate it. So we hired somebody that, you know, we thought was fine. And we kind of asked them like, well, how long do you think something like this would take? And mind you, this is like a 15-minute script that needed to be animated.
But like animated in a simple style.
Like South Park style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which was a reference. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, he said like, I could probably do this in 3 weeks. So we sort of agreed. We all agreed on 3 weeks, which is kind of like crazy, but whatever. So we believed him. 3 weeks passed, and then I can't even tell you what happened. 3 weeks turned into a year and a half. Like, and don't even ask me what happened in between. But basically, it was like, you know, we have COVID and, you know, everything that's happening, and people are struggling. And so there was a lot of this like back and forth, like, oh, like something came up, or, you know,
my brother tried to kill me one time. He's like, my brother tried to get, like, what kind of excuses?
Right.
Like,
it was just like a lot of like personal life getting brought into the business side of things. And it's like, well, this is, but like, of course we're empathetic. We're like, that's fine. Like, take your time. You know what I mean? That was kind of a mistake, but also we're human beings. We care.
Of course.
And we understand things happen, but also, yeah, it just kind of kept on that happening, and he kept stringing us along. But the weirdest part was like, he would send these like update videos where he would sort of film what he was working on, and he'd set himself up in like a little corner so you can see his like camera, and he'd walk us through a 30-minute presentation of what he was working on. And all we wanted to know was like, where are we at? Can we see what you're working on? But it was so bizarre, because it was just a lot of talking in circles. And like at the end of the video, we're like, wait, did he even show us what he was working on?
He showed us nothing. And then it
was weird. It was weird. It was more of like an explanation of the things that he, like the new technology he was trying to make for it. It was really weird, but
it's like, see, I'm working, you guys.
Yeah.
Not accomplishing anything.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Just talking about, like, this is like him. Like, he would be like, hey, Nas and April. Hey, so, okay, I got this picture of an anteater here. And you might be wondering, okay, what is the anteater doing? What does it have to do with that? Well, no, what I want to say is that it has to do with animation because Nas looks like an anteater or blah, 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 you know, and it's like, shut up. Like, it's nothing. You're talking about nothing. And I will say, in all honesty, okay, one of the things that kept me sort of like, no, he's cool. He's working on it was one time I did go to Vegas to check up on him to see what he was doing. Instead of showing me what he was doing, he took me to a karaoke party with adult film stars. And so I was like, oh, this guy's cool. He's, this is a fun time. And then I went back to my life. And then so for many months
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he bamboozled me. And never again.
It was crazy. But
Oh.
that happened. And at one point, I remember looking at Nas because we had scheduled so many times where we would bring him into the studio and he'd just show us what he's working on, or we would go visit him, but it was always like, no. But at one point, I remember looking at you, Nas, and I asked you, or we asked each other, like, is this guy, like, is he screwing us? Like, is he just stringing us along? Is he even, you know what I mean? Like, we're like, I think he's faking it. And so we just sort of decided we're going to cut, which is so funny because I mentioned earlier, like, you kind of have to know when to cut people off.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where it's like, you're so
new
involved.
And
but
involved.
If you're like, you're months into a project, into like, this animation portion of the film, you've committed to it. There's so much energy already and money spent, you know what I mean? And you're like, okay, well, it's easier just to see it through because I think we're almost done. But then it's like, nope. So we learned a lot from that experience. And to keep this short, that's what led to Nas animating the film.
Yeah.
So about a year and a half later, and this again, all during like 2020.
Yeah.
And, we had a day. I remember Nas came into the office and he was just mad. He was really mad. And he's like, what, and we're all just like, fuck, like we're back at square one. At square one. We just wasted a whole year. And so in our minds, we're like, are we about to waste another year and a half, like animating this? Like, it shouldn't take that long. So we had to make a decision, like, what are we going to do? And I don't remember whose idea it was, but
I think it was my everything was building up to that because
Chris showed us that.
Yeah, exactly. Because Chris showed us these programs and stuff. And I've always thought, okay, look, real talk. My drawings, I'm not a good draftsman. I can draw cute little, like all those little stickers in Debbie. I did those. Everything I did.
It's like a Tim Burton style, which I always loved. I always loved.
And it's like
I thought it worked so well.
Oh, thank you very much, Caroline. I really appreciate that. But
amazing job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, great. Thank you.
But no, it's like we have we should be proud.
You should. And like, it's kind of hilarious how much you could just accomplish yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm doing a movie. I want to pay someone who's better than me to do this. But then that's my thing. Like, I expect you to be better than me. Otherwise, I'm not paying for this because that frustrates me so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think I set out, I was like, guys, this will take 6 weeks. And it was rough. That was like the end of it, and that was the hardest thing. It was like a dark 6 weeks, but it was worth it. I was super supported by my partners, and one day April got me a hot dog and stuff. And then what's funny is we filmed me eating the hot dog, and then we put it on my podcast and talked about the animation journey. Then this fucking idiot like gets all mad and he hears it and messages us weird videos, and we were like, dude, out.
Stop.
We called him and yelled at him.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. It was a weird experience, guys. It was so weird.
Look, here's the thing, and I say this with love towards humanity. Mental health is like a really important thing. It's the most important thing for everybody. I think if everybody concentrated on just keeping their mental health in check, the world would be just a little nicer. Like, people would know how to deal with one another in healthier ways. This guy was off. Like, he was off his rocker. And there's only so much you can't. It's like talking to a fucking meth head, like, it's what are we going to accomplish here? Get out of my life. I'm done with you.
So it was a little traumatizing, but we actually documented the whole journey. And we actually made a documentary about the making of our movie. So for any listeners, like, we documented the whole animation process, and it gets really into working with this person and just the evolution of all that. But
Wow.
yeah, it was I think it all worked out for the best, and which I feel like there's like that movie magic that happens when, you know, your movie turns out to be something that it wasn't intended to be, but then it's even better. And it's like, it was all just kind of meant to be. And I think it was always intended, like, it was always meant to be that you would be the one to animate the film, because he had all this concept art made for the film with all these drawings and like, like, yeah, you should just do it.
You should just make it.
Yeah. And like when he would turn in art, by the way, I mean, we always had we had the suspicion once things went bad that he was outsourcing everything. And so we would get stuff and it wouldn't look cool. Like it looked like shit. And like, it was like, you know,
it was like, it was more the fact that none of it was consistent.
Yeah.
We're like, I don't think this is the same person making all these things, you know?
Right. Because I mean, real talk. I mean, again, to like the listeners out there, dude, you want animation done? You could find people on like Fiverr and stuff like that to do stuff. The sky's the limit. And the truth is, most of these people in the gig economy with animation, especially, they're in third world countries. You know, there are people that have perfected their skill and they can sell it for cheap on these gig economy things, and that's what they do. And that's a whole ethical conversation to have, and that's something for another day. But what I'm saying is, we feel like that guy was just outsourcing every little bit and stuff because it just looked like different people were working on it. It was dumb.
Yeah. So that happened. That's definitely the biggest T of the making of our film. But yeah, so basically,
no, I can't imagine. I mean, you spent all this time, but crowdfunding, shooting, crowdfunding, then you do the thing, you're done, and this is the part. I mean, I totally empathize with how stressed I was to begin post journey after filming, because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put all of this into your hands, sir, kind sir. There's a very long contract I drafted because I was just like, nope, I don't want to miss deadline. Like I was like, and I stressed about that too. And I'm like, okay. But he had such a great chill approach. He's like, yeah, cool, great, you got this. He's like, maybe we'll have to extend here and there. And like, all I asked was we just communicate. Communication is everything. So I feel like, I think I actually said this to another filmmaker the other day, like if earlier on, like if within the first month, so you don't end up with years, if there's already like lack of communication, so second month too, like we're not hitting these dates, just bow out. I feel like you've already missed 2 deadlines. Already missed 2 deadlines. You haven't communicated to me. I'm sorry, but we're not, you're not giving us what we're also going to pay 100%.
So. Yeah, and karaoke is fun, but there's more important things.
That is wild and strange, and you know what? It makes a great first film story. So we all like Desert Flowers. We had some kooky characters too that also talked in circles, and I almost fired. But you know, we stuck it through, and everything turned out super great working with the team at the end of the day. But there was a lot, and especially like you're dealing with something new. For us, it was the whole filmmaking thing. For you, it was animation and how that works. You're trying to trust this person who knows more than you. And you're like, okay, I don't know, like who am I to like slam the hammer down yet? Like I don't know. And then like you said, you get so far into it, you're like, okay.
Right.
And then also when you're doing low budget films, there's this balance of like, how much can you demand of people and how much are they getting paid and how much do they love you? Like how much, you know, like how loyal are they to to your cause? Because it's like, at the end of the day, it's like filmmakers out there know that like most people that are working on your thing, they don't even care about your thing. They care about you. They're you know what I mean? And it's like they're on your side. So be nice to them and stuff, because they'll build your thing up and you guys will be powerful. You know?
But I think there's also this fine line. And I feel like whenever we are working with someone, like even in the sync process now, you know, we're giving what I feel are generous deadlines because we're having conversations early on. We're doing that. So at a certain point, I'm like, I am paying you. I am giving you so much time. So the least you can do is communicate with me or, work it out, because I'm going to be fair. Like, I know I'm going to play fair at the end of the day, but I feel like if I'm not getting that, like, it's a bad look.
Yeah.
Bad look.
And at the end of the day, there is an agreement made, right? That's like the most important. So it's like, you agreed to this, so
right.
I'm going to hold you to that. Like,
right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
1000%. Well, guys, thanks for spilling all this juicy tea today. Wow. I feel like we had a full circle, and I feel like there's a lot of things that people can learn. They should absolutely, please share where they can see Debbie and the Devil and the documentary of making Debbie and the Devil.
Yeah, absolutely. So Debbie and the Devil and Hellacious, the making of an indie horror film, are both on Tubi. And then Debbie and the Devil is also on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, you can rent it on Amazon Prime.
I think, you can rent it on Amazon Prime. And then we also sell Blu-rays on our website. I believe those are the main places. Oh, Apple TV as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Yeah. Also, Amigas, the telenovela is also on Tubi.
Yes.
And Boy Talk, a show we put out, is on Tubi.
A lot of our stuff is on Tubi. I think if you even just search Wild 7 Studios, you can find a lot of the stuff that we've made on Tubi.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
and you guys come back to the lair one day. It'll be fun.
Yes, we would love to
promote Sync and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
we would love that. Thank you guys.
100%. Yeah. A follow-up conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Also, before we sign off, let our listeners know so they know where they can watch your stuff now. But if they want to follow you, social media, websites, all that too.
Pimp it out. Pimp yourself.
Yeah. I am on Instagram at Mr.Nosred, and on Twitter, though I'm not active there, at Mr. Nosred, and our website, wild7studios.com. And what else, April?
Yeah, I mean, Wild 7 Studios on socials for, Instagram and TikTok is at Wild 7 Studios with the number 7. And our YouTube channel, Wild 7 Studios, hit that subscribe button.
Smash that.
And then I am at April Directs on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, everything's linked on my Linktree and Wild 7's Linktree, so you can find a lot of our projects there and what we're up to. I have a film coming out very soon called Austera. It's a witchy horror short film. So, outside of the long form stuff, we put out some shorts and podcasts. Keep up with, all the things we do.
You have to let us know about the short too, because I want to watch that when it's out.
Oh yeah.
I'll send it to you right away.
For sure.
Yes, please. No, I just want to say, Naz, he's going viral, so make sure you check him out. But April at April Directs, a friend of mine had actually sent me your profile too before Parker did, and
nice.
I just think what you're doing is really cool, like, and smart, so if anyone's an actor or a production crew member, April is always looking for extra hands. I mean, so are we. It's always nice to know people.
100%.
But I think it's really cool that, you are shooting shorts, you are doing things. And before we officially let you guys go, if you want to share anything that's up and coming, you've shared Austera. Is there any other projects? But I just think it's really cool. Definitely follow these guys, Wild 7 Studios, because you guys have stuff that you're working on and a studio that you can come visit and do things at. So
thank
you want to
you
share
so
a bit
much.
about that? Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Coming up, you want to go first?
I am working on my second film. I've been working on it for several years now, called Showdown in Hell. And it's a fun action kind of thing, and blood and lots of fun stuff. We've got action and stuff. And we have a comic book out called Killer Comanche. There are 2 issues. And also, we produced a short film called Skrilla, which was a proof of concept for another film called Wait, which is a crime noir kind of style, LA crime kind of thing. City like,
So that's something that's more long term. It's in the making, that we want to make into a feature film. So that's definitely on the horizon. I'm working on stuff, nothing that I want to promote yet, officially, but I'm always writing. But we do have a series called Mr. Red's Gruesome Stories that's sort of in the making. We've put out 2 episodes of it, and I believe you can still find it on YouTube. And I wrote and directed one, and it was based on one of Naz's comic books, and then Chris directed the other one. But we're sort of like working on making more episodes and making it into a full series. So that's something that you'll probably hear of and see it more in the very near future. And then just more shorts to come. And
And I have to say, for me, I view filmmaking as just pushing a rock up a mountain. For 4 years, we were pushing the Debbie rock up the mountain. Now for me, it's for, you know,
Yeah.
it's pushing the show down in hell.
We also have two more. Sorry, two more. We're actually about to finish up two things. We have a pilot episode for a kids show that is half live action, half animated, which is very, very Wild 7, very Nosred specifically, called Cartoon Galaxy. Yeah. And essentially it's just us putting together a lot of our animated shorts that are kid friendly into a show that's set in space with Muppets, and it's so that's called
Puppets,
Cartoon Galaxy.
puppets.
Or what did I say? I said Muppets.
Yeah.
It's like Kleenex. Puppets, right?
Yeah.
And then we have THC, which is an animated series. If you want to.
Yeah, THC is basically, it's a homage to anime and tokusatsu, which is like Japanese for special effects. It's like a genre, and it's like a irreverent, just pure silliness, just absolute silliness. That's it. Just 100% no seriousness at all to that THC. It's about these kids. They fight giant monsters. They go into a giant mecha, but really they just deal with life and its trials and tribulations.
Yeah. It's very excited for that. It's our first animated series that, we have a team, which, we've come such a long way since Debbie and the Devil, working with animators. And we know, thanks to our hardships with Debbie and the Devil and having to learn the hard way, we've developed this animation studio, and like now Nas can animate, and our team, we work with great animators.
Jimmy,
they're the best.
Kendall, Lily.
Lupe. Yeah. Amazing. And it's just so fun to work with them at different levels. And like, we're very excited about this. I'm very proud of this show that we want to make more of.
I'm trying to think of other animators. Ellis, who has worked on our stuff.
But our main team.
Ethan. I'm like rummaging. There's a lot. I'm trying to name them all, but I can't.
No, but that's incredible. And again, like you said, sometimes going through some crazy times can lead to the growth and what you're experiencing today, which sounds fabulous. I love that you are hiring all these talented people to come on and work on the projects. And oh my gosh, you have so much going on, guys.
So much.
Thank you so much.
I was expecting you guys to be like, we have one short. No, there's so many things.
It's just different stages, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it takes years to get the thing done, as we know. So that's awesome. Congrats to doing so much and getting all of
Thank you so much.
projects done.
I love
Thank
it.
you. Yeah,
Well,
Andy Warhol said, make art, and then while people are talking about it, just make more art, and that's how we roll. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Guys, go make your art.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Can't wait. And you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.